You spent the first years of your life doing the hardest work you will ever do. You learned to lift your own head. You learned that the giant warm shapes above you were people, and that some of them were yours. You learned to sit, to crawl, to stand, to walk. You cracked the code of an entire language without anyone explaining a single rule of it. You felt your first fear, your first comfort, your first joy, and you remember none of it. Try it. Reach back as far as you possibly can. For most people, the trail goes cold somewhere around the age of 3, sometimes with a few broken fragments before that. A room, a feeling, a birthday that might honestly just be a photograph you were shown later. Earlier than that, nothing. Years of your own life, the most important years you will ever live, simply missing. This is so ordinary that we never stop to question it, but it is genuinely strange. Those years were not empty. A 2-year-old is learning at a speed no adult could survive. So why is the recorder switched off for the exact part of life when the most is happening? It is so reliable that scientists have a name for the blank. They call it childhood amnesia. The first guess most people make is that babies simply do not form memories, that their little brains are blank, just soaking, never saving. But that is plainly wrong. A baby remembers constantly. It knows its mother's voice within days of being born. It remembers where the toy went when you hit it. It learns that this face means food, and that sound means the door. A small child holds the meanings of thousands of words, and that is memory, enormous amounts of it, working perfectly. So the memories are being made. The real question is why they do not last, and why you cannot go back later and find them. Part of the answer is that the part of the brain that files memories for the long term is still being built. There is a structure deep inside the brain, the hippocampus, that works something like a librarian. It takes a moment of experience and binds it together. The where, the when, the what, the feeling, into a single record you can pull off the shelf years afterward. In a baby, that librarian is brand new to the job, and the shelves themselves are still being put up. Experiences come flooding in, but the system that turns them into permanent, findable files is not finished yet. The events happen. The careful filing does not. And underneath that, there is a stranger reason still. In those first years, the brain is growing new cells and rewiring itself at a staggering pace. That growth is the whole miracle. It is what lets a baby learn so impossibly fast. But a brain that is busy rebuilding its own wiring is a very hard place to keep a record safe. Picture trying to keep one sheet of paper in exactly the same spot, in a room where the walls are being moved every single day. The very thing that makes a baby a genius at learning may also be the thing that quietly erases the receipts. But there is one more piece, and it is the one that turns this from a fact about brains into something about being a person at all. To remember a moment the way you remember your 10th birthday, you need something to hang it on. You need a you, a sense of self, a single continuous person that things happen to, a main character moving through time. You need the rough, unspoken idea that there is a me, that this me existed yesterday and will exist tomorrow, and that the thing that just happened to it. A newborn does not have that yet. The self is not installed at birth. It is built, slowly, over the first years, and it is built in large part out of language. Words are what let you tell the story of your own day, even silently, even only to yourself. I went here. Then this happened. Then I felt that. Before a child has language, experience is not being woven into a story. because there is not yet a storyteller, and there is not yet a story for the moments to belong to. Things happen, vividly, overwhelmingly, and then they drift away, because nothing exists yet to file them under. So your earliest memory is not really the first thing that ever happened to you. It is closer to the first thing that happened to someone you would now call yourself. It marks a quiet, invisible event that no one was there to witness. The moment the narrator woke up. The moment a person finally existed who could say me and mean it and keep the record from then on. That is why the blank is not a hole in your story. It is what came before your story started. Underneath the part you remember, there is a whole other life. The one where you did the hardest learning of all. Learned to be a person in the first place. And then handed the finished self over to you and quietly disappeared. And it did leave something behind. You cannot retrieve those years, but you are standing on them. The deepest things, whether the world feels safe or frightening, the rhythm and music of your first language, the particular shape of what home feels like in your body, were laid down back there in the time you will never get back. You do not remember learning any of it. You just became it. The memories are gone. The person they made is reading these very words. So when you reach back and find only darkness at the beginning, do not think of it as something lost. Think of it as the workshop, with the lights off and the door shut, where you were quietly assembled. You were not absent for those years. You were being made. You do not remember becoming yourself. You only remember being it.